state has made an effort to recognize historic acts of service, leadership, compassion through our annual Washington Leadership Awards. Now, why do we do this? We do this because this organization, founded by the great Lieutenant Governor John Sherberg, was created to promote good leadership in our state. And that's what we're here to celebrate tonight. Our state legislature reinforced that mission in 2005 when it established the Washington State Leadership Board into state law, specifically naming these awards as official state honors. To this day, we continue and are proud to share a unique relationship with the state of Washington, including our close partnership with the Lieutenant Governor's office on a number of our key programs. Now, it's for all of these reasons that I hope all of those being recognized tonight will realize that it's not just me who's proud of you. It's not just our board that's proud of you. It's the entire state of Washington. And we're all here to celebrate you. From our very highest elected officials to our youngest emerging leaders, we are all here to honor you in the same tradition by which our state has been honoring excellence, selflessness, and leadership for the past 45 years. We are proud to be joined tonight by Lieutenant Governor Denny and our very own Secretary of State, Kim Wyman, both of whom are statewide elected officials who serve as ex officio members on the Washington State Leadership Board. We are also so proud tonight to be joined by some special guests who I will briefly acknowledge now. And please feel free to use the clapping reaction button on the bottom right of your screen, or you can just clap in real life. I will ask all of you to stay on mute so that we can hear each name. Starting off with our elected officials, I'd like to introduce and recognize former Secretary of State Ralph Monroe, Senator Claire Wilson, who serves on our board, Senator Karen Kaiser, Representative Alex Ibarra, Representative Javier Valdez, Representative Emily Wicks, and Representative Mary Levitt, former State Representative Jessen Farrell, King County Council Member Kathy Lambert, Tacoma City Council Member Catherine Ushka, Spokane Council Member Betsy Wilkerson, and former Orcas Island Council Member Rick Hughes. I'd like to turn it over now to our Executive Director, Christina Brown, who will introduce our Consul Generals and former winners.
Thank you so much, Nick. So Nick has given me the pleasure of butchering a couple of names. And so to those of you who are the Consul General in our audience, just know that I so deeply respect and appreciate you all and the work that you do, and that my pronunciation is not a reflection of that. So I would like to welcome and thank for coming today, Consul Aoife Kamel of Austria, Consul Andres Barria of Chile, Consul Brandon Lee of Canada, Consul Elisabetta Valentini of Italy, Consul Hector Ivan Godoy Prisque of Mexico, Consul Luis Fernando Esteban of Spain, and former Consul Yoichiro Yamada of Japan. Thank you so much for coming here. It means a lot to have you here. And Nick, can I go ahead and also recognize the former winners of the Washingtonian of the Year Awards who are with us tonight?
Please do.
So, one of the real pleasures that I had in putting this event together was reaching out to some of the folks who we've recognized in the past for amazing acts of service. And so we've got a number of them here today. So I just want to recognize and thank for coming tonight, Mimi Siegel, who's the former executive director of Kindering. We recognized her in 2019. Carla Pepperzak, who is herself a Holocaust survivor and public speaker. She was Washingtonian of the Year in 2020. Kimberly Keith, who is executive director of Hilltop Artists. We recognized her and her organization in 2020. Nancy LeMay, who's the owner of the LeMay Car Museum and founder of the LeMay Family Collection, who we recognized in 2016. And Peggy Laporte, who's the founder of Friends United to Shelter the Indigent, Oppressed, and Needy, who won in 2015. And Leslie Main, who's the founder of Permission to Start Dreaming, which is an organization that treats soldiers with PTSD, who we recognized in 2015. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Christina. We appreciate all of you being here tonight on this important night. And before we get going, last but not least, I would like to recognize a couple of our sponsors for tonight's event. We want to thank our friends at Alliance Northwest for sponsoring this evening's event, as well as UA Local 598, who I am promoting with a banner behind me. Local 598 is tonight's platinum sponsor. Local 598 was founded in 1942 during the height of the Manhattan Project, and it represents workers in the plumbing and steam fitting trades in 21 counties in Eastern Washington, Eastern Oregon. We want to thank them for supporting our mission, our students, and the future of leadership in our state. Now, our first speaker tonight is Lieutenant Governor Denny Heck, who I am honored to introduce. As Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Heck presides over the state Senate, serves as acting governor whenever the governor is out of the state, and runs his own state agency. By state statute, the Lieutenant Governor serves as an ex officio member on our board. Prior to being elected as Lieutenant Governor in 2020, Denny Heck served as the first U.S. representative from Washington's 10th Congressional District. While in Congress, he served on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, the House Financial Services Committee, and the Joint Economic Committee. Prior to his service in Congress, Lieutenant Governor Heck successfully grew several small businesses in Washington state, including Real Networks, a digital entertainment company that pioneered streaming media on the internet. As a strong advocate of open government in 1993, Lieutenant Governor Heck co-founded TVW, who is covering tonight's events. We want to say thank you to TVW. While at TVW, the Lieutenant Governor hosted the renowned public affairs program Inside Olympia and won an Emmy for a documentary he wrote, produced, and directed. Early in his career, Lieutenant Governor Heck served in the State House of Representatives. Elected to 5 terms, he was chosen by his colleagues to serve as House Majority Leader before retiring in 1986. After his time in the legislature, he served as Chief of Staff to Governor Booth Gardner during his 2nd term. Born in Vancouver, Washington, Lieutenant Governor Heck earned his degree from the Evergreen State College. With that introduction, Lieutenant Governor Heck, thank you for joining us tonight, and the floor is yours, sir.
And Nick, just give me one moment as I try to open his mic. I'm in contact with his staff who are working, as I understand it, furiously to unmute him.
Well, it's 2021 and it's the reality of Zoom. So
it really is. It really is.
He says, you have to unmute him. I can see it. I can read your lips, Lieutenant Governor.
I've asked you to unmute. I have put you in the spotlight, sir. I apologize for that. There we go. You.
Victory. It kept giving me the signal of that you had to unmute me, but we are at send off here. So thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, thank you for that kind introduction. I strongly suspect that it's going to end up being longer than my remarks, but I'm grateful nonetheless. Indeed, I'm grateful to the board for allowing me and inviting me to be here for the Washington State Awards. And I thank everyone for joining us to celebrate some pretty extraordinary individuals and organizations. I have a strong personal bias, and that is that we don't take the time often enough to acknowledge the sacrifices and accomplishments and contributions other people have made. So I'm delighted to be a part of this. I got to thinking about tonight in the context of the last year. And in the last year, we have seen some particularly incredible hardships and resilience by the citizens of our state. We've seen upheaval in the economy unlike ever before, and in public health. We've been ravaged, frankly, I think that's the right word, by a global pandemic that's devastated family members and neighbors and our friends. No family has been exempt from this. I know of no one that has been exempt. My family has not been exempt. My wife suffered a fairly nasty case of COVID in December, and earlier in that calendar year, the sole surviving member of my father's family succumbed to this terrible illness. And yet, through it all, we've adapted, haven't we? And we've changed kind of basic aspects of our lives and how it is that we cope and get by. During this time, we have also seen a renewal of justified international outrage. And I think that's the right way to describe it, at racial injustice. And we've been shaken by the ugly images of the murder of George Floyd. And we've mourned the lives of countless others whose lives have been taken by racism, both systemic and personal. So our assumptions have been challenged, and our sense of possibilities have expanded. and we have re-examined the most fundamental parts of our lives as we seek just to do better every single day and to get through this. Well, the individuals and organizations that are being recognized here today, they're just as extraordinary as this past year has been, truly. From Dr. Helen Shu, the country's first physician, the very first in this nation to discover the community spread of coronavirus. Now, let me be very direct about this. Dr. Shu pushed the envelope a little bit in this regard. And when she did, to our great collective benefit, I'm reminded of something that my dear friend, God rest his soul, John Lewis used to tell us all, advise us all, encourage us all. And that was to get into a little good trouble. Well, Dr. Chu, thanks for getting into a little good trouble on all our behalves. From Dr. Chu to Community Passageways, the nonprofit that is leading our state in felony diversion and prevention and taking strides to tackle recidivism. You know, when I think about the difficulty of that challenge, the complexity of that challenge, it kind of reminds me of people who run into burning buildings to save others. It's a tough, tough challenge. And yet it's impossible for me to imagine a way in which an organization can function to more dramatically change the trajectory for the better of someone's life. So God bless them. And to Northwest Harvest, an organization that many of us are familiar with and that has made sure millions of families have access to food in meal programs. In fact, 2 million meals a month, I think, by last count. A phenomenal contribution to the well-being of people. And this is also a moment to highlight the individuals who have helped to make Washington what it is. And I want to start with Jim Ellis, who made an impact, especially in King County, but broader than that really, by supporting and leading highway improvements and public amenities, in large part with an effort that has become to be known as Forward Thrust. Here's the deal. Every time I cross over one of the Lake Washington bridges, honest to goodness, I think about Jim. And I think every single individual who does that, when they do that, ought to stop and pause and give thanks that that lake is as clean and healthy as it is because of the phenomenal leadership of Jim Ellis. In fact, somewhat wistfully, it makes me wish that Jim were still with us to take on cleaning up Puget Sound like he did Lake Washington. And finally, but certainly not least, the impact that Bill Gates Sr. has had on global health and philanthropy. You know, I knew Bill Sr. a little, not well, but interacted with him several times. In fact, the chair alluded to my hosting the TVW program Inside Olympia. I interviewed Bill Sr. for that program once. It literally changed my life, and I mean that. He had just returned not too recently, or not too long ago, from a trip to Africa. And he told me the story of meeting in these hovels with sex workers. And when he talked about the plight of those women's lives, he teared up. He clearly was deeply affected by it. And I am reminded that I think it was FDR said, the single greatest characteristic of leadership is empathy. Yet here across from me sat this bigger than life man, physically and in other ways, a titan in the legal profession, whose heart was so deeply affected by what these women were encountering with his empathy. What a great man. He was a great man. So as we're continuing into the next year, it's my wish that the spirit of resilience and perseverance infuse our jobs and our volunteer opportunities and communities, and that we take significant inspiration from these individuals and organizations who have made such a difference in the lives of so many, and to whom, frankly, we owe so very, very much. And with that, I thank you again, Mr. Chairman.
Lieutenant Governor Heck, thank you. Thank you for the remarks and thank you for the message that you shared. I couldn't agree more. Okay, Christina, moving on. We are also honored tonight to have a number of statewide elected officials serving on our board. Secretary of State Kim Wyman, who you may know is the woman who personally oversees our state elections and who once again ensured that we had a fair, accessible voting system in our state this past year, is one such member. Kim Wyman is Washington's 15th Secretary of State. First elected in 2012, she is the only second female Secretary of State in Washington's history. As head of one of the most diverse offices in state government, Secretary Wyman is responsible for overseeing state and local elections, corporation and charity filings, the Washington State Library, the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library, and the Washington State Archives. Prior to her election, she served as Thurston County Election Director for nearly a decade. She currently serves on many state and national boards, including this one, and enjoys mentoring students and is passionate about ensuring young people learn local history and understand how to engage with the civic process. A national leader in election administration, Secretary Wyman often shares Washington's award-winning, innovative election and cybersecurity practices with organizations across the country. Secretary Wyman graduated from California State University, Long Beach, and earned her master's degree in public administration from Troy State University. City University of Seattle awarded her an honorary doctorate in leadership in 2015. She received her SARA certification from the Election Center and Auburn University in 2004 and has been a Washington State certified election administrator since 1995. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Secretary Wyman to the stage.
He actually just got it to work. Absolutely incredible timing.
I'm a professional.
Well, hello. I apologize for having Zoom trouble, but I will make my remarks very quickly. I assume it's now time to say them. First, I just want to begin with a great appreciation on behalf of the state of Washington for the life-saving work of these honorees tonight. In a politically fractured time like this, there are values that we hold common in Washington state. They include selflessness, compassion, strong leadership. This is what Washington Leadership Awards are all about. This past year has put the issue of leadership itself in front and center. As a state on the move, we can do more to promote thoughtful leadership, and the more we do, the better. Having worked with this board over the past several years and having seen the deliberative process up close, I know exactly how hard the decision was to decide who to choose this year. But after a lengthy and thoughtful deliberative process, the board and I are completely confident with and proud of these awardees. I'm proud to be on this board and that it's committed to this mission of recognizing and cultivating good leadership. I know the student leaders who are participating in this event and I believe these students are positioned to make just as significant an impact as the people we are recognizing today. So thank you for your patience tonight and thank you for letting me be part of this wonderful ceremony.
I want to share a little bit more with all of you about who we are at the Washington State Leadership Board. We've prepared a brief video for you tonight to give you a sense of what it is that our board does. And for that, I'll turn it over to our Executive Director, Christina Brown, to share that with you.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to both elected officials for joining us, especially with the really, truly clutch timing and immediate delivery. I really appreciate it. And I'll be really brief because I know that what we're all waiting for really is to recognize these honorees that we're so proud of. But I did want to take 1 second to sort of recognize the other side of the equation, which is tonight's all about recognizing leaders. And that's one of the things that we do at the leadership board. But the other side of the equation is cultivating leadership. And I wanted to take a moment to talk about that because unless you cultivate leadership and take care of it and invest in it, you don't have the great leaders to recognize like we do today. And so I just wanted to share with you some of the work that we're doing to cultivate equitable, thoughtful, effective leaders, especially among young people in our state, which is really the heart of the work that we do. And so what I wanted to share with you is sort of our basic theory of change, which is that if you invest in the right people, they will have a multiplier effect back in their communities. They will bring their new learning to their friends, to their family, and they will bring everyone up around them. And I really do believe that. And the reason I believe it is because I've been watching it happen through these programs that we do at the Washington State Leadership Board. So just to give you all a sense of who we are and that other side of that equation, I wanted you to hear directly from our students through this video.
Welcome to the Legislative Youth Advisory Council interview with Governor Inslee. The council is the official youth advisory body to the state legislature and is comprised of youth from around the state who work with legislators and in their communities to represent the perspectives of young people.
I want to thank the council here for allowing me to say hello. I want to thank you for your leadership. I think we've made some wise decisions by encouraging young people to participate.
Hola España.
I'm gonna try and become a leader in whatever I'm working with, because whatever I'm involved in has to be the best that it can possibly be, and I am going to give it my full effort. And if that means that I'm able to help someone else along the way who is maybe newer to it or doesn't have a passion for it or whatever it may be, then I'm ready for that.
Hi, my name is Giselle Vargas. I am a student at Snohomish High School. Hi, my name is Jeremiah Leonard.
Hi, my name is Hannah Tan. I'm a student at Renton High School, and I've been living here in Washington my entire life.
Hey there, everyone. My name is Israel. I'm from Cedro Woolley in Skagit County.
Hello, I'm Keely Sheffield Garcia.
Hey, my name is Christian Sanchez. I am 15 years old from Granby, Washington.
Hi, I'm Sandra Mercado.
Hello, my name is Poppy Hildebrandt.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
It's a fantastic video.
Well, thank Audrey for that.
Thank you, Audrey. And to all of you, these programs really are at the heart of what we do, promoting and cultivating amazing leaders for generations to come in the state of Washington, which brings me to tonight's events and the reason we're all here. I'd like to invite each of the honorees to the stage one by one so that they may each say a few words and receive their award tonight. To do the honors, in the spirit of leadership, I would like to invite one student from each of our 4 leadership programs to introduce tonight's award recipients. I am honored and excited to introduce Charlie, who will introduce our first awardee. Charlie.
Can everybody hear me okay?
You're perfect.
Yes, we can.
Yay! Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie Fisher, and I'm a member of the Legislative Youth Advisory Council, the official voice of youth to the Washington State Legislature. It is my honor to introduce Dr. Helen Shu this evening. You may know her as the first physician in the United States to discover community spread of the coronavirus. I want to tell you a little bit about that, but let me just say, as a young woman, I aspire to be a strong woman and a change maker like Dr. Chu one day. Helen Shu is a board certified physician with UW Medicine and a UW assistant professor of medicine and allergy and infectious diseases, as well as an adjunct assistant professor of epidemiology. It was because of her groundbreaking work that public health authorities were able to locate the epicenter of the pandemic relatively early on, despite facing intense professional and bureaucratic pressures. When news of the pandemic was first hitting the United States, Dr. Chu was serving as the director of the Seattle Flu Study, which had been collecting nasal swabs to study the epidemiology of the flu for months. When the news of the novel coronavirus began to worsen, Dr. Chu made a request to the federal government to test the swabs from the Seattle Flu Study for the novel coronavirus, citing an international health emergency. Her request was denied. As the severity of the pandemic became clearer, however, she and her team decided to test the samples anyway, immediately finding a positive case from a teenager in Washington State with no history of travel to Wuhan. With this discovery, Dr. Chu identified the first case of community transmission of the novel coronavirus in the United States. Despite the significant risk to her career, Dr. Chu alerted public health authorities of her discovery. The rest is history. Her early discovery, and most of all, her tenacity, helped inform the state's response to the pandemic and saved lives. Today, Dr. Chu continues to spearhead critical research as well as more programmatic work to help monitor and stem the spread of the virus. Dr. Chu, could you please take center stage, show us your award, and share a few words with us?
Thank you so much, Ms. Fisher. It is such a pleasure to be here today, and thank you for that, such a kind introduction. And here is the award. Thank you for Christina for coming all the way to the lab to deliver it. I have some remarks. So, Lieutenant Governor Heck, former Lieutenant Governor Habib, who I know is not here right now, Secretary of State Wyman, members of the Washington State Leadership Board, my fellow honorees, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm humbled by and deeply appreciative of this award. This is an honor I never expected or anticipated. And please know that I am accepting this on behalf of our entire team of hundreds of people, faculty, staff, and students and trainees who have dedicated the last year of their life to working on the coronavirus pandemic. And in particular, I want to acknowledge the role of Trevor Bedford and Jason Dory, who are my co-directors on the Seattle Flu Study. This pandemic has been and will likely be the defining moment of our careers. As Ms. Fisher noted in her introduction, I was serving as the director of the Seattle Flu Study. This was an effort that started in 2018, 100 years after the last pandemic. We wanted to develop a pandemic surveillance platform with the expectation that one day, far into the future, we would need to be ready for the next pandemic. And our current strategies were not adequate to find new viruses or to stop their spread. So my colleagues and I at the Brodmann Beatty Institute, at the University of Washington, at the Fred Hutchinson, at Seattle Children's, and the Institute for Disease Modeling chose to study the flu. We wanted to understand how it caused outbreaks, how it was transmitted, and what types of public health interventions, such as home testing, could be used to stop its spread. And we wanted to then apply these lessons to develop a framework to be able to respond to the next pandemic earlier. But never did we expect that just a year into our study, we would suddenly be ground zero of the US pandemic. And we were in a place where we could do something. So we are now rapidly approaching the 20th of February, which was the 1-year anniversary of the day we discovered community transmission of the virus, using the platform of our study. Since then, the Seattle Flu Study has grown, both in size and in scope. We've established something called the Seattle Coronavirus Assessment Network, SCAN for short, in partnership with Public Health, Seattle King County, and the Centers for Disease Control. We've developed a system to deliver now over 50,000 kits to people's homes for them to collect a swab and send back to us for testing. And we continue the work of the Seattle Flu Study with all of our wonderful community partners here in Washington State, working with local schools and universities to develop testing strategies for safe reopening, studying SARS-CoV-2 transmission in homeless shelters in the city of Seattle and in families with young children. And now with vaccine rollout, we're starting to measure how the impact of these vaccines will impact SARS-CoV-2 as well as other viruses like the flu. So Washington State has been talked a lot about as a success story. We were the first to see cases and we were the first to see deaths. And yet since those early days, we've remained near the bottom in terms of cases, deaths, and the number of hospital beds filled. And I think this is a testimony to what we have here. We have leaders like yourselves who work hand in hand with scientists and public health experts who follow the science and make good evidence-based policy decisions. We have depth and breadth in public health and in scientific expertise. And we in academia have really relied on our public health colleagues at the local and state levels to be strong partners in our work. And I think this is what makes Washington State work so well. It has been, as Paul McCartney said, a long and winding road. But I believe I speak for all of us when I say that our work represents some of the most gratifying time of our careers. The recognition this evening is humbling to all of us. So last but most important, I wanted to thank my local Wedgwood community here in Seattle, as well as my family, including my husband for his patience in managing our lives this past year. And then my 3 very young children, Kai, May, and Ravi, who have become little experts in public health, vaccines, and pandemics as they've listened in to all of the Zoom meetings where we talk about what we're going to do. Thank you for this honor.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you and congratulations, Dr. Chu. And as an added surprise, this year we are continuing to fulfill the tradition of bestowing the state flag to the Washingtonian of the Year. The flag that you see in Christina Brown's background came from Secretary Wyman's office. It is a flag that has actually been flown over our state's capital, and we will be sending that to you after the event. Congratulations and thank you. And with that, we will move on now to our next awardee. Brian Conde Martinez, could you please introduce the Washington State Organization of the Year?
Absolutely, I would love to. Before that, just a quick mic check, make sure everyone can hear me. Thumbs up. All righty, awesome. Well, I'll get right into it. Hello, I'm here representing the Washington World Fellows Global Leadership Program, and I am so proud to introduce Northwest Harvest, the winner of the Organization of the Year Award. Northwest Harvest is a food justice organization working to end hunger and address the root causes of poverty, the largest such organization in our state. They provide equitable access to nutritious food by partnering with 375 food banks, meal programs, and schools to distribute food to the people who need it in every county across the state of Washington. In addition to delivering much needed food aid to families, Northwest Harvest also work at the systemic level to change policy and practices that perpetuate racism and inequity. As the coronavirus pandemic has continued to drive food insecurity, Northwest Harvest has undertaken a massive increase in food distribution and is piloting new initiatives, including direct cash assistance and grocery voucher cards, to meet the unprecedented need. Now, it is no exaggeration to say that with their millions of meals delivered this past year, Northwest Harvest has saved lives. Today, accepting the Organization of the Year awards on behalf of Northwest Harvest, we are honored to have James Gibbs, Chief of Staff at Northwest Harvest. James Gibbs began his career with Northwest Harvest in February of 2001, recently marking his 20th anniversary with the organization. James has held many positions at Northwest Harvest, from receptionist to executive administrator to HR manager to his current position of Chief of Staff. James has seen a remarkable growth and outreach of Northwest Harvest develop into the food justice hunger response agency it is today. Before coming to Northwest Harvest, James was the managing director / festival coordinator of the Seattle International Film Festival and worked in leadership at the Palm Springs and Hamptons International Film Festivals as well. Originally from Minnesota, James has lived in Seattle for almost 30 years and currently enjoys living life on First Hill with his husband, Valentino.
Thank you so much, Brian, for that introduction and for the work you are doing in the state's Youth Leadership Program. I'm delivering these remarks on behalf of Thomas Reynolds, Northwest Harvest CEO. Thomas is very sorry he cannot be here tonight. He's been out of the country advising the startup food bank in the country of Georgia. I know Thomas very much wanted to be here. First, I want to express how deeply honored every one of us at Northwest Harvest feels in receiving this award. Thank you to the Lieutenant Governor and the Washington Leadership Board for what they do to lift up and recognize the work and impact of so many public service organizations and individuals. And congratulations to our fellow awardees as well. This award goes to the people who make our work possible, our dedicated staff and volunteers across the state of Washington, and our board, many of whom have lived experience with food insecurity themselves. It also goes to so many of you out there who support our mission. This past year, as Washingtonians experienced the double whammy impact of the coronavirus pandemic on our economy and our health, our team worked relentlessly to address the greatest food insecurity crisis in generations. The COVID pandemic is continuing to wreak havoc in our communities here in Washington, and so is hunger. The difference is there's no vaccine on the way for hunger. The massive job loss has driven food insecurity to double from 800,000 people before the pandemic outbreak to close to 2.5 million Washingtonians who are struggling to cover basic household expenses today. Food banks and meal programs have seen a 300% increase in demand. But thanks to a tidal wave of support from so many Washingtonians who stepped up to donate, to volunteer for virtual food drives, to advocate for federal and state funding to ensure access to nutritious food for all, we were able to meet the needs of our neighbors in every county of the state, one family at a time. But our work is far from done. Hunger is not just the absence of food, it is the absence of justice. At Northwest Harvest, we are redoubling our work to address the root causes of poverty and hunger. We are working to build a movement to change policy and practices that perpetuate racism and inequity, and to direct investment into expanding opportunity and justice. We prize respect and dignity and believe access to nutritious food should be a human right, no questions asked. Thank you again so much for this award and this incredible show of support for our work.
Thank you. Thank you, James, and congratulations again to yourself and to Northwest Harvest, and thank you for what you do. I am now proud to recognize Ritika Kanal, who will introduce us to this year's Justice for All Award winner. Ritika, go ahead.
All right. So, hi, everyone. It's so good to be here with you tonight, even if it is over the interwebs, a year like no other. But my name is Ritika Kanal, and I'm here tonight representing Boundless Washington, which is an outdoors leadership program designed for young people with disabilities. But what I'm really excited about is that tonight I have the honor of introducing the winner for the Justice for All Award. As Lieutenant Governor Heck mentioned earlier, this year has been challenging in every sense of the word, really, but it is so important to stop and recognize the true superheroes of our communities who continue advancing racial and social justice issues and changing lives year after year, no matter what challenges come their way. My honoree, Community Passageways, has been doing this since its founding. Community Passageways is a Seattle-based nonprofit organization with the goal of reaching zero youth incarceration. As a felony diversion and prevention organization, Community Passageways operates a myriad of programs focused on leadership, mental and behavioral health, and wraparound services. Part of the secret to Community Passageways' success, though, is that their staff have credibility with the people they serve because they employ people who have personal experiences navigating the school to prison pipeline. Since its founding, Community Passageways has worked with many young people facing charges, 70% of whom receive no prison time while remaining engaged with the program and in the community. So that shows you how much and how important their work is. The organization's founder, Dominique Coach Dom Davis, will be accepting the Justice for All Award on behalf of his organization. Now, when I heard Coach Dom's story, I was so inspired because he is living proof and such amazing examples to all of us that no matter how tight of a corner you're in, no matter how much adversity you have to overcome, you can come out on top and make a profound impact on the world. You see, some 20 years ago, Mr. Davis left drug dealing behind and reinvented himself as a football coach. But when he saw young people dropping out of the school system because of drugs and gangs, he couldn't stand by and watch. He devoted himself to opening doors to kids, creating opportunities to lead them to healthier futures. In 2011, he co-founded King County's Choose 180 program, which is a diversion program that helps keep young people accused of low-level offenses out of the criminal justice system. He served as the program's co-director for more than 5 years, but then a massive amount of violence in Seattle set him on a new path. He decided that young people involved in more serious cases needed his attention too. So he launched a new nonprofit, Community Passageways, at the start of 2017, and that's what we're here celebrating tonight. Coach Dom, congratulations, and thank you so much for being here tonight to accept this award. You are such an inspiration, honestly, and I just wanted to say I'm just so honored to get to help recognize such a deserving organization. And with that, I'm actually going to pass this off to the amazing Coach Dom himself. So if you would take center stage, show us your award, and share thoughts with us.
There we go. Can you guys see the award? There we go. Thank you. I just got to say, I'm honored to be, first, I want to give props to these teenagers, these young people that are introducing us. You guys are incredible. You guys inspire me. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. You inspire me. I'm inspired by you guys. I had to hold back tears watching that video. I was kind of getting a little emotional because I love seeing young people have opportunities. I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor's office for recognizing our work, because honestly, I just want to tell you, we're starting to get some recognition, but when you're doing this work for so long, it's the work we do is in the shadows. It's in the dark. It's late at night. It's in different places that most people wouldn't walk through or go put their selves in the middle of. And so when we get recognized at this level, it just makes me feel like, wow, this is incredible. Like the work we're doing, we just keep our heads down and we keep grinding because it's about saving our community. But our staff and everybody puts themselves at risk on a regular basis. And then you get recognized like this at a level like this, it just makes you go, thank God. I mean, thank you for just people see us. We feel seen. We feel like there's a light being shined on us. And I just want to thank you for that and this opportunity. I want to thank my staff. I have an incredible staff. It went from 3 or 4 of us just doing this work. Literally, all I wanted to do was just say, I need to help these kids. That was in my mind. I just want to help some kids. And the next thing I know, I started helping some kids. I had a couple of people working with me, and a couple of volunteers, Kim and Keith, and there was only a few of us. This is back in 2017. Now we're close to 40 plus employees, and we're just doing incredible work. The staff is just so powerful, and I'm so excited, and I don't even know how to express myself and how blessed I am to have the people around me to do this work. My prayer all the time is just keep opening up the doors for us to keep doing this work. I ask God all the time, just keep blessing us, opening up the doors, give us the resources, and God just keeps dropping these things in our lap. I want to honor the people that do this work, because we go after people that have been there and done that. People that have served 20 plus years, people said 10 years, 8 years, 5 years, people that have been in the midst of drug abuse and drug addiction and drug dealing. And we take them same people that the community turns their back on, that has a jacket on of, I got felonies or I have a tainted past, and can't even get a real good living wage or a healthcare package or any kind of wisdom and knowledge of how to deal with finances. And buy your first house, buy your first piece of property, be a business owner. People don't get that. Our community, our society turns their back on these people. And I'm one of those people. And I felt like, no, these are the people that are closest to the problem. And the people closest to the problem are people that can solve the issue. And they have the most skills. All you have to do is give people resources and opportunities, and they will knock it out the park every time. This is what we need to understand. Resources need to be diverted from other systems into community alternative systems so that we can pull our community up out of the dark spaces that we're in. Racist institutions have suppressed our communities. That's why we're in these positions that we're in. How do we pull ourselves out? We pull ourselves out by supplying and providing the right resources to the right demographic of the community, so they don't have to become victims of the criminal justice system. They don't have to be out here and doing survival crimes. They don't have to fall into these situations where they're in gangs and drugs and stealing. They don't have to fall into that. They just need a door open for them. And this picture behind me, this is one of our programs. It's a deep dive program. These young people in this picture have been very successful. In 1 year, we took this group of demographic and young people that were more likely to shoot or be shot. And we took and this was deigned by the prosecuting attorney's office. And we went out to our community and we did outreach for them. And we grabbed them in and we pulled them in. And we said, we're going to pay you to help you. We're going to pay you to get your life on the right track. And we became a village. Community Passageways, all of our programs, CP Fit, the Youth Achievement Center, the Youth Consortium, we got all these different programs, and I'm not going to go down the list, but we're a village. And that's what it's about, creating a village. And that village is about uplifting each other, inspiring each other, and then going out and making opportunities real for people, open up doors of opportunities for people. So I'm fired up. I'm excited. I'm happy to get this award, but I'm more fired up about the fact that the light is being shined on the work, and that this work can literally save communities around this whole state if we start focusing our energies on it and putting resources behind it and getting the people that we normally wouldn't put in a position to make a living wage and do what they need to do to go out and get the right training, to go into the community and save lives. And that's what we're about, saving lives. And we're doing that. We are saving lives on a regular basis, on a daily basis. And I'm so excited about it. And I thank you guys for giving us an award for it. I thank my staff and my whole team for supporting us and supporting the vision that God gave me. And I'm just fired up and inspired. And I thank everybody for joining this call. And I appreciate the Lieutenant Governor's office. And we will be talking more and more and more. I promise you that.
Wow. Thank you, Coach Tom. I'm fired up now too. Thank you to you. Congratulations again to Community Passageways, to you, your team. The work you do is profoundly important, and keep on grinding. With that, we're going to move on now to Natalie Gomez. Natalie Gomez, could you please introduce our fourth and final honorees tonight who are jointly receiving the Legacy of Service Award?
It would be my pleasure. Hello, my name is Natalie Gomez, and I am here representing the Compassion Scholars Program, an experience-based community service program that brought 24 community leaders, including myself, to India in 2019 to meet the Dalai Lama and implement a service project back at home. As a future lawyer myself, I am inspired by those who use their knowledge of the legal system to advocate for others, as well as those who dedicate their lives to the service of their communities, which is why it is my profound honor to introduce our final honorees. This year, the Legacy of Service Award will be given jointly to Bill Gates Sr. and Jim Ellis, philanthropists who work together at the law firm Preston Gates and Ellis, now known as K&L Gates. First, I will introduce you all to the late and great Jim Ellis, who passed away on October 22nd, 2019. Mr. Ellis was a celebrated advocate for civic causes and the environment. His environmental causes were many, but he will be remembered as a leader in the 1950s cleanup of Lake Washington, which was described before the cleanup as looking like split pea soup, and is now a beacon of the Pacific Northwest. He also founded the Mountain to Sound Greenway Trust, a nonprofit dedicated to preserving 1.5 million acres of land, most of it public, around the I-90 corridor between Seattle and Ellensburg. In terms of civic ventures, Ellis's legacy lives on. Among other accomplishments, he established the municipality of Metropolitan Seattle, the predecessor to King County Metro, which today is one of the largest transit bus agencies in the United States. Accepting this award on his behalf is our friend and Jim Ellis' son, Bob Ellis. Bob himself is an incredible pillar in the community. A lifelong Washingtonian, Bob has taught French in Seattle and Bellevue for several decades and raised his 3 sons bilingually. He has organized many bicycle trips with students, including a 15-month trip around the world. Bob has a passion for politics, serving 40 years as a precinct committee officer, and was happy to be involved with the design of the inaugural Washington World Fellows Program. He currently serves on the board of the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trust. Mr. Ellis, would you present your award for all to see and say a few words about your father, Jim?
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you to the Washington State Leadership Board. It's a great honor to accept the Washington Legacy of Service Award on behalf of my father. I've got it so that people can see it. I don't think I do. Anyway, it's good. It's really good. There we are. All right. Jim would be especially honored to be sharing the award with Bill Gates Sr., a friend and law partner. They shared many memories and triumphs. My siblings, Judy, Lynn, Steve, and I would all attest that our father was a wonderful role model. He, along with his brother, John Ellis, who also achieved an amazing legacy of civic projects, showed us that it is possible to be a citizen activist. Jim comes from a pioneering family with deep roots in Washington State. While a young teen, Jim's father challenged him and his brother Bob to build a log cabin on the raging river, according to the rules of the Homestead Act, promising to give them the land if they succeeded. That 2-summer effort was the foundation of Jim's commitment to the environment and to conservation. The result of it you can see if you look at Andrew Ellis on the screen. He is in the cabin that they built, and he and his brother Peter now live there. However, Bob is not. When Bob was killed in World War II, Jim was totally distraught. He was irrational. He wanted revenge, and it took the patient coaching of his young bride, Mary Lou, to persuade him to honor Bob instead by dedicating himself to conserving the forests and lands they both so loved. Her soft voice always carried a lot of weight. She was a partner in all of his projects until her death in 1983. He relied on our mother just as he relied on all the team players in every project. Jim excelled at enlisting team players. Once at a Mountains to Sound Greenway event, someone compared my father to Yoda in Star Wars. Due to his mesmerizing presence and supernatural gift of getting people to join the team to work together on regional and state projects. He shared a vision and listened to all sides, thus building coalitions for projects for the common good. His aim was always to build a broader consensus. He knew that incorporating a variety of ideas and suggestions would create a stronger outcome, which is why he worked so well with others, and he believed in sharing credit. In fact, Jim wrote many tributes about those whom he called friends along the way. People like Bob Beach, Carrie Donworth, Ray Ogden, and Albert King, who met regularly in our kitchen in Bellevue to work on cleaning up Lake Washington. Or Bob Flynn, who with Jim were recognized as the students' regent at the University of Washington during the Vietnam War. Or Betty Fletcher, whom he sponsored as the first woman member of the Rainier Club. Or Dan Evans, Slade Gordon, and Sally Jewell, who were instrumental in conservation initiatives, the Mountains to Sound Greenway and the Downtown Freeway Park. Or so many other friends and local officials, like Kathy Lambert here tonight, who all worked with him on a multitude of regional projects. Our father demonstrated that leadership means toughing it out for the long haul. His work on the Washington State Convention Center and its expansion spanned 20 years, working with 4 different governors from both sides of the political aisle. Not every endeavor that Jim undertook was successful on the first try, but he learned from his defeats and adapted. Several earlier measures to pass a King County farmlands preservation program had received majority support, but had failed due to technical requirements. It wasn't until 1979 that the voters finally approved a $15 million bond issue to fund the program to protect 13,000 acres of farmland and more than 200 farms. He was all about perseverance. The keys to Jim's civic successes were indeed long-range vision and purpose, perseverance and collaboration, and enlisting the support of family and friends. I want to leave you with a quote from Jim's Corden Faulkner lecture that he presented in 1990, discussing survival tips for part-time activists. He said, "The value of any reform hinges on the depth of perception and commitment which is brought to the process. A careful mind and a caring heart are both needed." The Washington State Leadership Board and the programs it supports are doing a marvelous job cultivating leadership by fostering careful minds and caring hearts in today's emerging leaders, and we're seeing them here today. Our family thanks you again for this award and for all that you do.
Thank you, Bob. And last but not least, I have the honor of sharing with you the legacy of Bill Gates Sr., tonight's final honoree. The father of 3 children, Christiane Blake, Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, and Libby McPhee, Bill Gates Sr. is remembered as a distinguished lawyer and philanthropist in Washington State and throughout the world. He was integral to the founding and growth of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where he advocated strongly for education, global health, and social and economic equity. Our entire state mourned his passing on September 14th, 2020. His wife, Mimi Gates, will accept his Legacy of Service Award tonight. Mimi, we are honored to have you with us tonight. Mimi is an art museum director and scholar of Chinese art. Formerly the director of the Yale University Art Gallery, she is best known in Washington for directing the Seattle Art Museum for 15 years, a museum of which she is now director emeritus. Mrs. Gates, it is an honor to welcome you today. Please show us Bill Gates Sr.'s award and share your words with us.
Thank you, Natalie. And here is this wonderful award, which we're all so grateful to have. Thank you for recognizing Bill. And thank you for your kind introduction. What a fine group of honorees we celebrate tonight. Bob, Bill and your father were great friends as law partners. They worked closely for many years, so it's most appropriate that the two of them receive this award together. Bill loved Washington State. This was home. He was proud to be born here, grow up here, and raise his family here. And although he was too humble to ever say so, he was proud to leave behind a legacy of working to make life better for all Washingtonians. In his book, Showing Up for Life, Bill wrote, "Public will is the sum total of every person's individual, deliberate acts of citizenship. Every time you vote, sign a petition, or volunteer for a cause, you're contributing to your community and making the world a better place, something each of tonight's honorees knows well." Bill was a champion for justice. As president of the Washington State Bar Association, he fought for equal access to justice, promoting high-quality legal services to low and middle-income people. He cared deeply about holding the judiciary to high standards and having a state court system that was fair and just. On one of our first dates in 1995, he took me to Olympia to attend the swearing-in ceremony of Barbara Durham, the first woman ever to be Chief Justice of the Washington Supreme Court. Through his work at the Gates Foundation, Bill addressed global problems, but he also never stopped showing up for the people of Washington State. He wanted to make sure that everyone in Washington had the opportunity to live a healthy and productive life. Sometimes that meant taking on tough problems that were not popular, like fighting for gun control, the estate tax, and a state income tax. Other times that meant working on issues like early learning. That was a passion of his. He was proud of the Gates Foundation's efforts in Washington to ensure that every child was ready for kindergarten, ready to learn and grow. Bill Gates Sr. was the embodiment of integrity, selflessness, service, and leadership. In West Africa, when a person of Bill Gates Sr.'s stature dies, they say a great tree has fallen. The bigger the person, the wider the roots, and the more giant the spread of the canopy that gave shade and protection to others. Bill was precisely such a tree. On his behalf and on behalf of the Gates family, I sincerely express my gratitude to the Washington State Leadership Board for this tremendous honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gates. Thank you, Bob Ellis. And thanks to all of our honorees for joining us tonight. I walk away personally from this event inspired and humbled. And to send us off, I'd like to invite our Executive Director, Christina Brown, to close out tonight's ceremonies. Christina?
Thank you, Nick. And I just want to reiterate that as well. It is so, I mean, of course, I've met most of you in person, but it is so lovely to have this moment with all of you and to have so many people here from all over the state able to recognize what you've done and to hear your stories. So I really, it's really quite moving for me. And I just wanted to close with one thing, which is, I think we've heard from a number of people today, something that I think a lot of us have been thinking about over this past year, which is the importance of good leadership and the question of what can I do and what can we do to promote that going forward? And what do we owe the world? I think as we've seen, the coronavirus flipped everything upside down, as we've had administrative change at the very top of our country, it's gotten people really thinking about this. And I think that celebrating tonight really kind of underlines and bolds and italicizes that point, which is that we need strong leaders. And I really appreciate the people today who followed their conscience instead of the crowd, or who brought community together to fill the gaps that everybody has in their safety net. And the people who are speaking out for truth and justice, regardless of whether it's popular or regardless of whether you're getting positive attention for it or whether people believe in you. In my opinion, those are the leadership characteristics that save and change lives. And so what I wanted to close with is an ask, which is that we get really serious about investing in those exact same leadership characteristics, which you can probably anticipate from the video that I showed you as well, and from seeing these students who introduced themselves today and introduced our honorees. And so I want to ask all of you to help us make that investment right now, because at the leadership board, what we specialize in is equitable, effective, compassionate leadership development. We pick students who we believe and we have seen have that multiplier effect that I was talking about earlier. Students who have really special, irreplaceable charisma, students who have lots of energy, pure intentions, courage in their optimism, and students who will be the first in their families or in their communities to pursue certain dreams, whether that's going to college or traveling abroad or making their voices heard in the halls of power in the state legislature. And in the leadership board, we support them with every piece of mentorship, academic support, leadership training, team building, whatever that money can buy. Because I do think that that's how you build leaders. It's not one opportunity, it's not one program, it takes years. And that's what we specialize in here. And I can tell you, having seen it happen with these students, the way that they've grown, I do think that we have future Dr. Chus, future Coach Doms, future nonprofit executives, future civic leaders, definitely future elected leaders, and hopefully philanthropic giants that I think are going to make a huge impact, not just on our state, but on our country. So yes, I am asking you for money. I am asking you to make a gift to these students tonight. Like any good nonprofit, we've made it very easy for you to do so. You can find the link in the event chat, or you can just text the word leaders with an S to 707070. All roads lead straight to our students. And thanks to the support that we do get from the state of Washington, 100% of your donation goes to our programs. The only other piece of this that I wanted to leave you with is an explanation as to why I wanted to be the one to ask you for that support. And the reason for that is that I have sort of a unique position on the board in that I have worked on these programs since the very beginning for most of them. And so I've had the benefit of getting to know these students extremely well. And I'm about to embarrass them. So for the students that are on the call, of which I know there are many, just close your ears, close your eyes, don't listen. Because it's really corny, but it's true. We pick students who aren't just talented or ambitious, although pretty much all of them are all those things. We pick students who are good, very thoughtful, compassionate people who have grit and determination, but who also care and who we really believe will bring their learning back to their communities, like I was saying before. In the World Fellows Program, where we have students from totally different worlds, we have students from Grandview hanging out with kids from downtown Seattle, and we throw them into a study abroad program where they spend six weeks together in Spain, and they have to make it work. And I have seen them make mistakes between each other, and I have seen forgiveness and growth that has, it's completely changed the way that I see the world. That is not an exaggeration. In LIAC, our Legislative Youth Advisory Council, I see students who are on completely opposite sides of supercharged political issues, battle it out, debate, and then remain friends. They literally skills and grace that I wish most adults had. I have seen with these students. And I know that they're going to bring it, they're only going to go forward after they leave us and graduate from our programs. In Balance, Washington, I've seen one of our blind students constantly fighting for the inclusion of one of our deaf students, putting herself in the very different shoes that he occupies and imagining the world from his perspective and making sure that he is included. So I say all that to just say, these are the kind of independent thinkers who I think will help us cut through political partisanship, lead us to the truth, and bring us to a more compassionate place and an effective place. And I really believe that investing in them is the best way that we have right now to affect change. So I hope that you can feel, even over Zoom, that for me, this has been and continues to be some of the most inspiring, joyful work that I can possibly do, is meeting people like the honorees that we're recognizing today and working with the students that some of whom we met today. And I want to invite you all to be part of that and to support our students. And I don't just, of course, what I'm asking for tonight is financial support, but I want to work with all of you in a lot of different ways as well. And I want to connect our students with every sort of network to power, frankly, that we can. And so I'm just asking all of you, as we close tonight, consider making a contribution to this cause, and taking the inspiration that I think a lot of us got from tonight, I definitely got tonight, into something that's going to be sustainable and is going to move through generations. So with that, thank you for your generosity. I already see people coming in now. It means so much to everyone on the board, I know, and to me as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you. You've been a fearless leader of our organization. And I want to close out tonight by saying thank you to everybody that has attended tonight. Thank you and congratulations to all of our honorees. Dr. Helen Shu, Washingtonian of the Year. James, who's accepting on behalf of Northwest Harvest, Washington State Organization of the Year. Coach Dom, Justice for All Award 2021. And Bob Ellis and Bill Gates Sr. Thank you so much. Congratulations again. We hope all of you will have a fantastic and safe evening. And we're going to leave the chat open for about 5 minutes if anybody wants to hang out and talk. But thank you again. And that is the end of our ceremony.